Greetings, ladies and metal gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called The Danger Will Not Pass, written by Chow Bynes. Excerpt from How Humans Fight by Professor Notea, Interspecies Studies. Humans are a species hard to find the words for. Even with their own words, I can't always find a way to describe them. The closest I could give at first to how they act is the word spite. To deliberately try and anger someone, but that's not it. It's deeper. It took me a while to find the word empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Not uniquely a human concept, but a cornerstone of much of their life. You would think that these two words as opposites, and they usually are. But when it comes to a human, that is, against you, they are used almost the same. A human who is annoyed while piloting a vehicle might honk their horn, of which all human vehicles have, whether you think so or not, and yes, somehow you can still hear them in the void of space. And the other to make them just as annoyed. A human who is stolen from might take their own back, and more to make the thief angry or frustrated as they were when first victimized. Both of these could be empathy or spite, and not even really that bad to most of us. War against them was when we truly saw the extent of it. A human, like most species, can live off pure scraps. They will make sure that you have to dig out the same garbage can as them. A human who is or has their tribe violated will never be the same. They'll make sure that you don't ever feel the same either. A human whose world is occupied, believe it or not, is scared. They'll make you feel the same fear. No matter who, no matter where you are from, the toughest trench to the tallest tower. When you fight a human, and as long as they feel threatened, the danger will not pass. The patrol moved through the city, hands holding their weapons as they cast suspicious glares at every human they passed. Slowly, they moved to a quieter area and relaxed a bit, a rare spot without the usual dozens of humans and their noise, slowing down their pace to stay as long as they could. The soldiers jumped a little as a human walked out of an alley, relaxing a bit more as they saw it was some drunk. "Hey, how's it going, friends?" the human stammered out as he approached the lead before being shoved away with the butt of a rifle. "Well, that's not very polite," the human said, the glazed look dropping from his eyes instantly. The soldiers were confused for a second by the switch, and then scared as the human seemed to look through them for a moment before gripping the rifle in the lead soldier's hand. The rest of the soldiers began to yell and raise their weapons before metallic clangs rang out at their feet. They looked down as a burst of smoke erupted into their faces. The lead soldier, still wrestling over the rifle, as the human suddenly backed up as it brought out a blackened gas mask before being obscured by the smoke. The lead backed up to one of these soldiers as they stayed back to back before he suddenly stumbled. The soldier there, a second before gone, dragged into the smoke. The lead panicked as shapes moved in the smoke around him, blindly firing at any motion that he saw. Eventually it all stopped, the lead still whirring his head around and heavily breathing, calming down as the smoke cleared away, looking at the ground around him, only to see the bodies of his team, all having the trademark burns of Alien Name 2 rifles. The same rifle, only carried by Alien Name 2 military. Humans slowly walked out of their homes, pointing at and recording the scene. The humans watched from the windows as the soldier laid down his rifle and was tackled by military police, quietly celebrating as the video quickly spread throughout the intergalactic public. The convoy moved along the highway, slowly progressing through the sandstorm, battering their vehicle. The soldiers joked as their vehicles were blown side to side before a loud whistling pierced even their vehicles. Two explosions happening at once as the front and back vehicles exploded, one being thrown into the air as the other was thrown onto its side, with doors being crushed inwards. Every few seconds a shot would ring out from the front or the back of the convoy as those in the middle poured out with their guns raised, glaring even from behind the armored mask to try to pierce the veil of flying sand. The shop stopping what seemed like mere feet away, as the soldiers nervously held their weapons. There was another long moment before the noise came out from the sand, the soldiers turning. Behind them figures appeared, and sticking blades through their backs. The slam of their bodies frightening the two remaining soldiers as they wildly spun, looking for what happened before two shots rang out, the bodies slowly falling, The storm slowly cleared up over the next day, the wind slowing down as a dot in the horizon slowly grew larger. Eventually seeing that it was a military APC slowly rolling into the town, the military waited on the road for it, quickly moving to stop it when it almost rolled past them. A soldier opened the door, throwing up as he looked inside. The body of another soldier that had been at the convoy, holes and gore painting both him and the inside of the car. The piece of paper stuck to his hands. The commander walked past, heaving soldier, and read it over. "You will not be safe until our system's star is as dead as your soldier. I want all suspected terrorist sympathizers rounded up and brought here, now!" the commander yelled. The soldiers nervously looked at each other before beginning to move out towards the other parts of the city. A human standing behind a small booth clicked a small button at the bottom of his stand. The mother quickly rushed her children into a crawl space as the beeper on her hip went off. "No matter what happens, stay down here, all right? Mommy's going to keep you safe, but no matter what you see or hear, don't come out unless me or one of our friends comes to get you," she said, giving them both a kiss on the forehead. "Mama loves you. Remember that." She finished before she covered the entrance and grabbed a rifle. Opening the small panel next to the door, she placed a cylinder of small beads, closing it and putting a mark on the outside of it. Moving back, she gave the archway opposite the door a small tap, hearing the metal ring out and taking position behind it. The apartment building came alive, the normally tired people moving with purpose. Doors were enveloped in furniture, curtains closed and windows opened. People grabbed shotguns, sitting at the bottom floor in doorways, others with rifles, peering through the holes in the curtains, watching for any movement. The apartment went silent again as soldiers moved into the roads towards the building. Waiting until the doors opened, through the open spots in the barricade, shotguns blasted out, knocking down or going through the soldiers. The windows of the building lit up with muzzle flashes, humans moving from window to window, firing down into the troops below. The door slammed inwards a few times before it cracked. Soldiers rushed into the home and making it a semicircle before a single shot rang out, hitting a small marker of soot. An explosion knocked it out, the soldiers getting blown into walls that remained, half of the walls themselves turning to shrapnel and firing into the street. More soldiers rushed forward, shots firing out from the rubble, as the mother sat behind the wall. Eventually, the roar of the armored vehicle filled the air as the mother quickly put a knife onto the barrel of a gun and rushed out. Leaping out the back window, she ran through the alleyways, coming out behind a group of soldiers escorting the tank as she opened up into them. Seeing the Tyro quickly turn, she ducked low and rushed towards the soldier, barreling through him and stabbing him before continuing to stay away from the end of the barrels, palming a small explosive as she jumped onto the hull and started placing a charge onto the turret. Just as she was about to leap off, a shot pierced her leg, another shot hitting her left arm, knocking her down. She gripped the detonator in her hand and smiled for a moment before hitting the button, the explosion enveloping the world around her. The commander stared down at the note as she paced around her office. Sitting down at the desk, she stared once again at the casualty numbers. 189 troops dead within 2 weeks of occupation. It was only with this note that she even had a justification to start rounding them up like animals they were, seeing as every other incident had been seen as some accident by her superiors. Walking towards the hollow platform, she saw an outline of a fighting that had begun. Already, she had lost one of her armored vehicles that were costly enough just to get here, not counting the modifications to work well in this hellscape. She ordered up a drink and sat back down at her desk, reading the documents in between giving her troops orders. Not even looking up at the figure entering the room, just taking the drink with a muffled thanks. She continued working. It wasn't until she noticed the figure didn't immediately leave that she finally looked up. The human looked out at her face entirely covered in a cloth mask. Her hand jumped to her pistol, but she felt so sluggish. The human batted away her hand and taking away the gun, standing there silently as the commander slowly went unconscious. The human moved her away from the terminal and began to slowly adjust the troop movements, a path towards a dead end here, and an ambush there before finally dragging a sleeping commander over and scanning her hand onto a small screen. Request for formal meeting regarding Sol 3 occupation. Request granted, sending packet with docking and security codes. The shuttle arrived in the system and followed the path down before landing on the platform. The shuttle door slowly lowered, a small box holding a letter propped on the top of it. A fine white powder fell off of it as the COD, Corporation Occupation Director, picked it up and opened it. Apologies for the delay. Our long-range communication systems have unexpectedly failed. A formal envoy will arrive in a few local cycles, and I request that you supply the ship with the listed equipment so that we may make hasty repairs. Our delegation will contain the compensation for such equipment, as we did not wish to leave such things in the unmanned ship. The equipment needs to be delivered by today, as by tomorrow afternoon the ship is programmed to fly back to Sol 3. Senior Occupation Commander of Earth. The pad was quiet for a little while, as the guards headed back in and then came out carrying large crates of communications equipment to the ship, leaving them in the cargo bay and attempting to wipe off that damned white powder that seemed to almost be everywhere in the cargo area of the ship. A few hours after finishing the paperwork, the COD began to move up the tower, drinking a fair amount of water to try and stifle the sudden cough he had developed, covering his mouth as he gave the security guard his pass and entered his home, quickly making his way to his chambers, quickly falling asleep as he laid on his bed. The lockers opened up, usually used for things like clothing or supplies, this time, however, filled with black-clad, two-legged humanoids, some odd respirator carving their face as they made their way through the ship's halls and onto the landing pad. They entered the grand skyscraper and fanned out, stabbing out over corpses of guards, some with a hand gripping their chest, others with it over their throat. The air traffic controller checked the flight plan of a small shuttle, giving it a green light as it saw it marked down on the schedule to leave. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.